I'm going to give you this.
Deal.
I'm just going
Thank
to
you, all
talk
of you.
really, really loud. All right. Well, welcome this evening. I'm going to shut this thing off. So don't have to worry about that. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you all for coming.
So, I usually start these things out, I think I told you this, by giving us an idea of kind of where you grew up and that kind of thing. So kind of give people a sense of kind of where you came from, as it will. And then kind of bring us through to, I don't know, college, sometime around there. And then in that discussion of why you got here, what I'm going to ask you next is what are some of the things that you learned that helped you get to where you are today? We'll talk about where you are today.
All right.
Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
So I grew up in LA, California, born and raised, went through basically elementary school hating math, and all of a sudden I got to 6th grade and realized that math was really cool. I had an amazing teacher. But more importantly, I was given a TI-83 calculator, and I read the entire manual because I'm a total dork. And there was a chapter in there about how to program a Lucky 7 dice game. So it was my first brush with programming, any kind of like actual coding. I didn't know it at the time that it could become like a profession, but I ended up coding an entire casino game during math class instead of paying attention, and passed it around to all of my friends who adored it. So fast forward to when I turned 15, I met a guy who I, full disclosure, fell in love with, and ended up full disclosure, and we started not only dating but creating software together. So I learned how to code because he was interested in it, and I thought it was kind of cool. And it turns out that I was way better than he was at it. So we started coding all of this software together. And he was a little older than I was. He ended up graduating first. We did a little bit of consulting work, but it was kind of my first brush with entrepreneurism. And then ended up enrolling at Harvey Med College. I chose to stay close, but I knew I really wanted to study something in the math or physics or science space. Did 2 years at Harvey Med College before realizing that there was no way that I could do college and my company, which at the time was called Social Engine, at the same time. So during the beginning of my junior year, I ended up dropping out, and that's, I think, as far as you wanted me to go.
No, keep going.
All right, so I dropped out of school, ended up launching Social Engine in 2007. We bootstrapped that company. It was me and just this guy who, at the time, I was dating, and we ended up breaking up, but we ended up launching Social Engine. Bootstrapped it to profitability, took it through Techstars in 2011, which is what brought me to Colorado. Couldn't leave. This place is amazing. And yeah.
Give us a sense of what that was, what Social Engine was.
Social Engine was a white label social networking platform. So individuals or nonprofits or schools could start a site like Facebook, but have it be branded and walled and on their domain and be able to control the content.
So how did you find out about Techstars? Tell us how you came to Colorado.
So it was a really strange series of events, actually. We were trying to get in front of a guy who we thought could be like a good partner for Social Engine, and he told us to meet us at something called the Do More Faster book tour, which, if you're familiar with Techstars, the Do More Faster book is actually written by David Cohen and Brad Feld about their Techstars ethos, which is that you should do more faster. So we showed up. The other guy that we were intending to meet didn't. And we ended up sitting through the entire workshop learning about what Techstars was. And we left there, and I said to Alex, I was like, we have to go. We have to apply. So we ended up applying. We came to Techstars for a day, decided it wasn't for us. We decided we were too late stage. We were already profitable, like throwing off money like nobody's business. And we felt like there was no way we were going to give up 6% in exchange for a 3-month program. But basically the program managers at the time, Nicole, ended up convincing us that it would be a good idea. We went, and I haven't looked back since. It was the best decision I've ever made.
So tell us a little bit about that experience with Techstars.
So Techstars is a 3-month boot camp basically for startups. You start the first month, you do mentor dating. What that means is they pair you with everyone from CEOs to angel investors to venture capitalists to other entrepreneurs who are in the business. You have 10 meetings a day, and you just pitch your idea over and over. You try and figure out like what value can these mentors add. The second month is all about building. So you build your product, you figure out how to make it scale. And then the last month is all about pitching, so learning how to present your company to investors. And then it all culminates with the demo day, which is a pitch on stage in front of like 600 investors.
So you were pitching the social aspect at that time, right?
Yep, Social Engine was what we were pitching. We actually built a whole separate product at the time as well called Fan Mix, which is actually what we ended up pitching at demo day. But yeah.
So what happened to the social engine?
So I left Social Engine in 2012 due, again, to full disclosure, like co-founder things. And it ended up actually being acquired by a company, a digital agency here in Boulder up in Boulder rather, I should say, called Room 214.
Okay. So with the experience of co-founders, let's talk about that for a moment. You had some co-founders.
Yeah.
In your experience, what are some of the pluses and minuses of finding a co-founder? How would you define how would you define a good co-founder? What are the things that you look to? Because a lot of people talk about, well, if you're a founder, you need to have co-founders, you need to have a CTO, you have all these people that need to be around you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do you define what's good for you yourself, right? What are the qualities that you look for and why?
Sure.
And tell me some experiences of the goods and the bad things.
So what I look for in a co-founder is somebody that's going to do anything it takes to get something done. That's thing number one. I'm super fortunate right now to have a co-founder, Trisha Hoke, who is like, if she doesn't know how to do it, she'll figure it out, and she is just unstoppable. To the point where I'm like, maybe you should take a break for a couple of days and make sure to take care of yourself. But I adore her. I mean, she really is like a fantastic co-founder. The thing that I think, and Alex was like that too, to be totally fair. Like he's a hard worker, and I wouldn't be an entrepreneur without him. I think the issue with Alex and the reason that we ended up parting ways was actually a risk profile question. So the thing you have to evaluate when you're finding a co-founder is, what is your risk profile? Do you want to create a lifestyle business? Do you want to, which frankly at the time was what I wanted to do. I felt like Social Engine was throwing off some great capital. I wanted to keep it rolling, grow it steadily. He really wanted to go in for the big win, find a venture firm to invest in us, really take the big chance. And that wasn't something that I wanted to do. And that's the reason that we ended up parting ways. So risk profile is another big thing that I look for.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about the Cotery.
Okay.
First, give us an explanation, the folks that maybe not know what it is, about what the Cotery is.
Sure.
I didn't want to tell them that at the beginning to let you do that. Let's start with that first, and then we'll go to the next one.
Okay. The Cotery is an end-to-end marketplace for limited run, unique designs by designers all over the world. So designers come to us.
Notice how that just rolled off.
I've practiced it a couple times. Designers come to us, they design a piece of apparel, they then pre-sell that apparel, and if they can get 50 orders within 30 days, we do all of the production and fulfillment and customer service for the item.
So how did you come up with that idea?
I didn't.
Okay.
It was actually my other co-founder, Jed Siegel, who came up with the idea. He actually approached me through a mutual mentor. I was at the time doing some contract work here and there, trying to figure out what my next move was going to be. And he pitched me on the idea of a company that would basically cut and sew apparel is incredibly hard to do. So he pitched me on the idea that we could create a site, use technology to fix this problem for designers, and actually make a site that could solve the problems that they're facing right now, which is that cut and sew apparel is expensive. You have to have a lot of capital. It's complicated. You have to have experience with tech packs and pattern creation, and you have to have the manufacturing relationships, which are often really hard to manage.
Okay. And up to this point, you didn't have any background in the apparel world.
No, not at all.
Right?
Aside from shopping.
Aside from sliding in the car.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So what compelled you? Was it the pitch? Was it, wow, that's cool? Was it the technology? Was it a combination? But what compelled you to go down this road for that? I mean, just talk about that.
Well, it was a combination of things. I mean, there was no question in my mind that there was a problem, but for me personally, what hooked me, like at the gut level, was enabling creation. So everything that I've ever done in my career has been about helping people realize an idea that they have and creating it. So for me, the real like gut level hook was that these artists and these designers didn't have a way to get to production. So to be able to enable that through technology was really what hooked me.
So that was, in your opinion, solving a particular problem.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So how did you go about determining whether that problem was valid?
We actually started by doing a focus group here in Denver. There's a group called Fashion Denver. So we got together about 15 to 20 designers, gave them this really half-baked pitch. I mean, we really didn't even know what we were talking about at the time, but really tried to suss out whether they believed that this was something that could solve their problem. And actually, that's how we met Trisha. She was actually in the back of the room. The co-founder talked about asking a million questions and basically telling us like these yahoos are full of shit, basically. So, but yeah, she ended up joining the team.
So how did you talk about how that happened?
She actually started by contracting with us. So she was trying to get her own freelancing contracting gig off the ground, and we ended up hiring her. And after about a week, I was like, "This is the person we need to have as a founder."
Did you think at the time that during that stage, it's pretty early,
Yeah.
that you needed someone like that, or was it one of those things where she came across your view and you were like, wow, this person could really help us? What was that aha moment, I guess, that you said, we need to have that person? What was the discussion around it?
We were using kind of these contractors here and there, and they weren't working out. So we knew we needed somebody in that role, but I didn't really have a clear idea of who that person was. And when Trish started contracting with us, I was actually really skeptical. I was like, I don't know if this girl's going to work out. But after, like I said, after a week, she proved herself, and I was begging to have her be a part of the team.
They have a pretty solid, small team, right?
Yep, about 7 people.
Okay, tell us a little bit about how the company is, how you organize it. How do you, you're the CEO, right?
Yeah.
I mean, tell us a little bit about, how that was formed, how you brought these people on, and some of the characteristics. You said just risk profile, whatever. What are some of the other things that you look for in building a team? That's important. I mean, there's co-founders. That's one part, but what, how when you're expanding, what are some of the things that you look for your strategy and how you want to grow the company?
Well, I mean, so there's the tactical stuff, which is just a skill set thing, right? And that's figuring out if the people have the skills to do that, to do what you need them to do. But we actually also, as a company, defined explicitly our values. So we read through, there's a book called The Advantage that outlines this process really well. But we as a company defined what our company values are. And one of our company values is be entrepreneurial, which I think is one of the big ones for me.
So how do you define that?
So be entrepreneurial to me, and to, as we've defined it in the company, means you get your work done. You own your schedule. So if you work best from a coffee shop at 2 a.m., great, no problem, as long as you're getting your work done. And then the third is to take a break, because at our company we really value vacation time and really being able to unplug, or if you have a family, spending your time with your family, and that's super valuable. I think it's important that we defined that as one of our values explicitly as a company.
Okay. So I want to come back to that. Keep yourself in shape or unplugged in that kind of business in a moment. But so as the company's, it's been around for how long?
Well, we launched last August, so August 2014.
Okay. So doing well, I understand, doing very well, which is congratulations.
Thank you.
So what's the plan for? Okay, first of all, did you guys start this bootstrap-wise? I think you have, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
talk about that. How
Sure.
you do, and then what are some of the things that you learned about that experience itself?
So my previous company was completely bootstrapped. That was like me and Alex in a dorm room coding, right? So we had literally no cost. This new company I like to think of as founder funded initially, because me and Jen both put in capital initially, but we didn't actually bring in outside capital until I guess about November of last year. So it was really tough for me to think about getting investors, because I had never done it before, and it felt like giving up a lot of control in a way that I wasn't familiar with. That said, after our first board meeting, I was like, oh my God, I've leveled up. There's a lot of horror stories about investment, which, are valid. But in my experience, it's actually been, if you find the right investors, they add so much more value than the control that I gave up.
Mm-hmm. So,
what kind of invest? Did you go angel or did you go?
We have both. We've got angels and institutions on our cap tables.
so there's a part of that, what people would like to know. That maybe I'm asking a question that you guys may ask, and you'll have a chance to ask questions in a minute. Bootstrapping is we hear that term all the time, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to bootstrap this, I'm going to do whatever. There's certain levels of that, I think, that are as people come into it, right? And your experience at the beginning was a full bootstrap. So when did you decide that you were at a point initially for bootstrap? And then I want to know on the second round, when you decided to go out, what made you do that?
Okay.
So if you can explain why you didn't do that at the beginning in the first one that you bootstrapped, and why you're doing investment this time.
So the first time around, I was really naive, and we didn't have a network. I had no idea how entrepreneurship worked, and so we just sort of did it our own way, which was to build something that we thought people would buy and then sell it. So we got lucky. I mean, I gotta be honest. I mean, we were kids with no costs. Our parents were paying our tuitions. We didn't need to, right? We didn't need to pay for rent, and so we got super lucky in that we started making money right away, and that eventually parlayed into actually being able to support ourselves. With this new company, I was super fortunate to have a little bit of capital from the previous company, so I didn't really need to take a lot of money. I didn't need to make a salary off of that. The reason that we ended up raising money is because we couldn't grow fast enough. The model is different. With Social Engine, it was easy for us to grow more linearly. With the Cotery, we needed the capital in order to hire the people, to buy fabric, to that kind of thing.
So when you decided to go pursue additional capital, what did you do first? How did you do that? A lot of people go, and again, you hear all these stories, right?
Yeah.
They come to things like this, or they go to Rocky's Venture, or they do a lot of different things. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of avenues. What are some of the things that you did, and what did you look at, and how did you decide? Just talk about that, because I think it's important for people to hear.
I tapped into a lot of my Techstars network, so that's the reason why I would recommend Techstars super highly to anybody that's looking to go into it. I got such a massive network, not just of angel investors, but people who could advise me on my pitch and what the story was, and so I went out, and my lead investor is one of my mentors from Techstars, and I also have another one of my mentors from Techstars on my cap table. So those are people who knew me and saw me through the program, and they say this a lot on VC blogs and whatever, but it's about lines, not dots, and you really have to go in and have that relationship with people so they can see your growth process, especially in an early stage company.
So how do you? Most folks are saying, well, I want to find someone that's going to be a potential investor. There's this relationship aspect of it. How did you build those relationships yourself? Was it just you? Was it you and your partner? How did that work?
Well, it was a little bit of both of us, and there was kind of a learning curve to that. So when we first got into Techstars and we had these mentor meetings, we tried to have it all figured out. We thought we got to present like we know what we're talking about, and that ended up falling really flat because mentors, the investors, mentors, like the people we were talking to, they wanted to help us, but we weren't giving them a chance to help us. We were pretending like we had everything all figured out. Okay. So what I learned from that process is that there's something to be said for being able to ask for help and being willing to put your mess on the table. That doesn't mean fall apart, right? But that does mean identify what do you need help with? What could this person help you with? And investors on the whole are much more willing to invest after having given you advice and seeing you implement that advice than if they weren't able to help you at all.
Okay, that's an interesting phrase there. Give me an example of that. Give us an example of putting it out there and then taking the advice and doing it. What were some of the advice? What were some that you got?
Sure.
That you implemented that you saw work?
Or
didn't work for that matter, right? I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I mean, the advice goes all across the board, right? It can be super small. It can be I think you should tweak this thing on your website, and that's fine. Or it can be hey, you need to like renegotiate your cap table or whatever it is. And if they can coach you through the like even the little things or the big things, they're a lot more likely to invest in you in the long run.
So if you were to give advice to the folks here and the folks that will watch this video, where would you say, just here in Denver, in your own experience, outside of Techstars, do you think people could get that advice from? I mean, knowing the people that you know, right?
Yeah.
And places that they can go and attend and that kind of stuff. And where would that be, in your opinion?
Sure. Well, so Open Angel Forum is a really great resource if you actually want to pitch your company to a lot of angels. It's like a great resource. There's a ton of meetups. I mean, everything from Boulder Beta, which happens I think once a quarter, if not twice a year, where startups can present and you end up like talking to 1 million people. I would also say, like, don't hesitate to reach out to people and ask them for a coffee, or as long as you're not going to waste their time, as long as there's like a clear, actionable, I need help with X, Y, and Z. Like, I guarantee like 90% of people will take that coffee.
Cool. So would you, just kind of switching gears here, would you classify the Cotery as a technology company, or would you classify them as a service company?
It's a technology company.
Only because you're a technologist.
Well, I mean, in part because I'm a technologist, like definitely. So the reason we're not a service company, and I'll tell you this, so we do provide services, right? But we're not a service company because we don't work one-on-one. Like, it's ultimately automation is going to be the way that we scale.
Right.
So that's my answer to your question.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking you that question, kind of set you up a little bit, is from an investment standpoint. Did you experience people saying, well, I don't want to invest in a service company.
Well,
I
yeah,
want to
definitely.
invest in the technology.
Definitely. Well, how are you going to scale? It's a massive question, and certainly a service company to scale, the concept is that you need more people in order to get like a linear growth. With a technology company, the expectation is you don't need more people, or you add an incremental person and it scales exponentially.
Okay.
So that's I think what investors are looking for.
Is that the advice that you got?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
No, I think that's somewhat important, because from the outside it could be, well, it's just a service organization.
Right.
But do you operate that internally that way?
Oh, yeah. We're not a service company. We're definitely a technology company. Like, no question. That doesn't mean we have terrible customer service, right? Like, customer service is like super important to us, but ultimately we don't, like, the way that we're going to scale is through automation. So yeah, we're a technology company.
Okay. I'm gonna reel back a little bit and talk about this risk profile.
Sure.
When the people that you continue to hire, do you go through that risk profile with them as well?
So,
or is it different from?
It's different from a co-founder.
Okay.
I mean, it's still important. I mean, right? Like, a startup is inherently insecure, right? Like, we don't have an infinite runway. We have to make things work in order to get us to the point where we can either raise our next round or magically become profitable, right? Like, those are kind of our options. So there is an inherent need for like being able to tolerate some amount of risk. But for additional employees, it's a slightly different metric, right? Because they're getting paid. It's a different, like,
Right.
that kind of thing. So.
Cool. All right. Now I'm going to go to the taking care of yourself. Okay.
Right.
The people that I've had the opportunity to interview doing this, every single one of them talk about that.
Sure.
And myself, the things that I've done and read, whenever, it's always about you need to, keep yourself recharged or charged.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you do yourself personally? And what are some of the things that some of the folks that you work with do? And how does that work within the organization?
Yeah, so meditation is a big one for me. Like, I'm really terrible at doing it consistently, but I do find that when I do it consistently, it helps a ton with my ability to be patient and make decisions properly. So that's one. I have tried and frequently failed to do no internet Saturdays. So, I'm pretty bad at it, but like trying to actually take a break from the internet for several hours at a time. That means like putting my phone on airplane mode and really being present in whatever it is that I'm doing. So if I'm at dinner with my boyfriend, I turn my phone off, or if I'm reading a book instead of like being in front of my computer, that helps a ton for me. I also try and get exercise in there too, but I'm like way less good at that. But for my team, I really try and make them take breaks. I mean, if they're like, we have, almost half our company has children, and it's, I think it's super important for them to be present with their kids when when they're at home. And so that's one of the reasons our schedule is so flexible. So yeah, taking a break is a really big part of our company. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't, not get your work done.
Right.
But yeah.
So how would you classify or describe yourself as CEO?
A work in progress.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I never saw myself as being CEO when I first started the company. In fact, I would have been so happy to just be CTO of the company. But as the couple of years have gone by, I realized I really need to step up, and so I found myself a CEO coach, and I've surrounded myself with a lot of really smart CEOs who have guided me along the way. I'm really fortunate.
Talk a little bit more about some of the things that they give you advice, because it's different from run the company, you get company advice, you get product advice, you get how to hire people, blah blah blah.
It's
Which
the
is all
emotional
important,
stuff that
right?
I need, right? Because the buck stops with me. The investors, are on me. My employees are like, what do we do, right? Everything the buck stops with me, and that's exhausting. It's stressful. Sometimes I don't even know how to deal with it. And so having that CEO support group, this sort of network that I have, helps immensely when I'm saying, when I'm struggling with a particular
What's
issue.
been a good big struggle?
I have a lot of struggles, yeah. I mean, when
Is it employees? Is it?
it's honestly, it's everything at different times, right?
Okay.
There's always a new fire to put out, and it always feels like it's the end of the world. It always feels like it's falling on my shoulders to solve everything.
Right.
So yeah, it's exhausting.
That's good. No. So the other, I got a million questions in my head, but what I want to try to do is give people a sense of, this is for us at Startup Crime. It's women entrepreneurs, right? And with anything, there's challenges all over the place. Things you do, whatever. But in this world, right, it's somewhat even more challenging. At least that's what I understand.
Right.
Can you talk about some of the challenges, and again, about being a woman CEO and founder? What are some of the things that you believe you had to overcome, if you did?
Yeah.
And maybe talk a little bit about how you went about doing that. What were those things that you had to
Yeah.
go without those barriers?
Sure. I mean, I think there were a lot more as a technologist. I definitely encountered, that I can for sure say, encountered a lot of sexism when I was more of a coder. And I still do some coding, but there was definitely people who said, well, women can't, you're a woman, you can't program, or judged me far more harshly than they would have otherwise if I was a dude. So that I can say, as a CEO, I think it's a little more subtle, to be honest. I think it's less out in the open, but you get kind of the soft sexism that happens, where you kind of feel like that was probably sexist, and if you told one of your girlfriends, she'd be totally on, that definitely happened. But the guys, if you were to pitch it to them, they'd be like, no, that was definitely not sexism. And so it's those things that I think are a lot harder to pin down, and make it a lot harder for women in entrepreneurship.
And what's some advice that you could give to current, future, and soon to be?
Keep trying. Yeah, you just got to keep chugging along. It sucks, but eventually you do break through. You find the people that are going to invest in you, or that are going to believe in your idea and support you. It's just a matter of the stick-to-itiveness, basically.
So did you encounter in your career at this point times where you just thought, I do this. I'm just going to go and find myself someplace comfortable, sit in the queue, and do what
Yeah, I feel like that thought
Right?
crosses my mind on a daily basis. Literally, it's so new fire comes up and I'm I'm moving to the Bahamas. Get me out of here, right? But I don't know why I keep I don't know. I just have a thing inside
What
me.
keeps you going? What keeps you invigorated, and excited?
I don't know. It's
Is it
like
just-
I really like the challenge. I
Okay.
don't know. Like it's masochistic. I don't even know.
Because people, when we talk about entrepreneurship and people talk about it, it's going back to that risk, right?
Yeah.
That risk profile. And some people look at that as a spectrum, and they say, well, I could do this thing at a, what I call the give it to my kids method versus,
Right,
this
exactly.
other side of the point. Where do you fit in that spectrum?
Um,
I mean, we're in the risk
yeah,
profile.
yeah. I mean, I'm probably like high risk. Like I would be a terrible employee. You do not want to have me as an employee. I would be a terrible employee. I'm never gonna work for anybody else. I think I'm an entrepreneur through and through, and I can't.
Is that one of the driving factors, you think?
Oh yeah, I don't want to work for somebody else. My options are basically make the Cotery work, or go and get a 9-to-5 job as a coder, which I could do, and that's fine. But I would be a terrible employee. Nobody would want to have me as an employee.
So define in your mind, the person that's thinking about the idea, they want to go out. What are you think some of the characteristics that person needs to have in order to make their idea reality? Especially a woman.
Tenacity. I mean, that goes back to what I was saying before, but really, you need to be willing to do anything, to keep moving forward. And if you don't know how to do it, then find a way to figure out how to do it. Learn how to Google more effectively. Find a mentor to help you out with it. There is always a way to do it. And so the tenacity piece, I think, is literally the most important thing.
Do you think ideas get funded versus solving problems?
It depends on who you are. And so this is, I think, an example of where a gender bias comes in. And I think guys can get ideas funded, and women have to have a solid business to be able to get funded.
Explain that. Let me talk to me a little more.
And it's hard because I don't feel like I have hard proof. And again, but you'll ask ask as many women CEOs as you want, and I think you'll find that a lot of us feel like we have a lot more trouble raising money because we don't have everything figured out. Whereas when a guy pitches, he doesn't have to have everything figured out. So I think there is a gender bias that comes in there.
Do you know any, as far as women investors?
Oh yeah, my lead investor is a woman. Yeah.
I haven't ran into too many of those.
Yeah, no, they're also few and far between, but I was super fortunate.
Is that something that you sought out? Or did
She
it
was a
just
mentor of mine, actually.
Okay.
So I mean, in some ways, yes, but I feel really fortunate to have her on our cap table. She's awesome. She's on our board too.
That's cool. So give me a sense of where you want to go. Obviously you want to grow your company. You want to get to what's the in your mind, what would you consider to be, I'd say, the ultimate success? But where do you want to be?
World domination.
World domination.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't know. We have our internal metrics and all of that, but yeah, I mean, I think we can be huge. So that's my goal.
Do you guys, and I don't want to try to get too much into the organizational infrastructure, but from a planning perspective, do you guys 3-year plan, 5-year plan? Do you have a 1-month plan, 30, 60, 90? I mean, how do you guys operate and know that you're meeting your expectations? And what are some of those expectations? And they could be not so much as financial expectations, but what are some of those?
So we do technically have a 5-year pro forma, but at this early stage, it's always super hard to say where we're going to be in 2019, 2020, right?
Right.
It's kind of a crazy. It's really more so that we can test our assumptions about how big we can be. In terms of internal metrics, I mean, yeah, of course we have goals that we want to hit on the designer side and goals that we want to hit on the shopper side, that kind of thing. So those are metrics that we do measure, and we try hard to hit them every month.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I have a couple more questions.
Yeah,
and then
go
I'll
for it.
open it up for folks here to ask you if you're willing.
Of course.
Of course you are. I was going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
The customers that you guys, you talked a little bit about how you bring these designers, that you give them a means and ways for them to present their designs. They meet a certain thing. Are there any restrictions on what those are, or how do you guys?
Content-wise, so obviously if they don't have a license for, if they use somebody's logo without a license, that kind of thing, we definitely reject it. But other than that, I mean, it's, we don't arbitrate on taste. Like just because I wouldn't wear something doesn't mean that someone else wouldn't, so.
Okay. All right, 2 last questions.
Okay.
Biggest challenge that you've had, it doesn't have to be the Cotery, whatever, just in your life, biggest challenge.
That would probably be, like really relationship management, by which I mean, and actually I'm thinking of it specifically as it pertains to work. So co-founders, employees, investors, like that to me is the hardest thing. I'm kind of an introvert, so I don't really like to, the people. One of the things that I loved about programming is that it's black and white. Like, right, you can solve the problem or you don't solve the problem and you have to figure out how to solve it. With people, it's a massive gray area. It's so much harder. So that has been my internal struggle really for the last few years, trying to figure out how to effectively manage, how to effectively talk to people.
Okay. Last question.
Sure.
Queen for a day. You're queen for a day. IW, queen for a day. What would you change?
That's a really broad question.
I know.
I hate this question.
Give it your best shot.
I hate this
It could be
question so
anything.
much. Fuck, I don't know. Sorry. God, this is like
Okay, today it's May 14th today.
I don't know. I don't know. I just want everybody to be happy. Like,
Okay.
like I'm trying to think of something that would make everybody happy.
This is the Miss Universe question.
I know,
What would you do?
and I would be a terrible Miss Universe. So, God, I don't know. Like free ice cream for everyone.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. This is a terrible question. It's too broad. Constrain me in some way. Like.
Okay, I won't be too defined. We'll let you go with the ice cream. I'm up for that. Well, I'm going to open it up here. Anybody have any questions for Shar? I mean, you guys have questions, I'm sure. John does.
Yeah. So when you were working with Angels, what were they looking for?
Team primarily, like that was like people is really what the Angels are looking for that I noticed. I mean, obviously they ask all the normal questions, which are, what are your unit economics and let me see your pro forma and what is the market size. But what I found is that if they really believe in the team, and then secondarily they believe in the idea you're chasing, they're likely to invest.
But they probably weren't necessarily benevolent.
No.
So they wanted something.
Of course.
So what did they want?
I mean,
In
equity,
return.
right?
I mean, so then what's the difference between them and VC?
Oh, okay.
Good question. Difference between Angel and VC.
Yeah, that is a good question. Well, I mean, really, the main difference is that angels are investing their own money and VCs are investing other people's money. So, and typically VCs, the stakes are going to be a little higher because they're investing in companies that are a little further along. Angels are investing in typically early stage companies, and so there's really an idea, maybe a proof of concept, and they're looking to invest in the idea, the people, the proof of concept, and get back some money eventually.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then VCs typically you'll have a lead, but then you'll have 3 or 4 that pile in. Are Angels the same way? Or
Yeah, they are actually. I mean, not as much certainly. I think I found more in firms like funds, venture funds who pile on together. But yeah, Angels are kind of the same way. They're like, who else is investing?
Right.
So once you kind of hit that first domino, all of the rest of them can fall down. So.
Okay, good question. Good question. Any other questions? Come on, David, you got one. No?
He knows everything.
David knows everything, yeah, exactly. All right, cool. Well, I appreciate you showing up this evening.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And
Thank
spending
you.
time with the crowd here. We do appreciate it. very
Thank you
much.
for having me.
Congratulations on your success and future success with the crowd. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys.
Thank you.